Nation, what's going on? It's Mitchell Renz, your host of the Raiders Report with some breaking news. The Las Vegas Raiders are expected to hire Joe DeCamillis as their next special teams coordinator. My plan is to go live here in a little bit on the Raiders Report, just trying to get some people to wake up so we can head on into the studio. But what you guys are going to see here on today's program is ultimately why I believe the Raiders decided to go in this direction, hiring a special teams coordinator that, I'll be real, I didn't do a lot of homework on him. I didn't do a lot of conversation around him. But looking at his resume very quickly, you can easily see why Klint Kubiak and the Las Vegas Raiders decided to go in this direction. Now, I promise y'all this, anytime Raiders news happens, I will always do my best to keep you guys up to date. That's why I want you to hit that subscribe button. And I know I wasn't able to go live yesterday for Valentine's Day when Rob Leonard was hired. So my plan here is this. I am getting ready to go back into the studio. We're going to be live for the Joe DeCamillis news, and then also we're going to be live there to chop it up around Rob Leonard since I didn't really get the opportunity to do that. I don't know what time that's going to happen yet. My hope is that it's going to be here in the next hour, but make sure you're subscribed. Make sure there's noties are turned on. So again, if you don't know who Joe DeCamillis is, he was with the South Carolina Gamecocks the past two seasons in 2024 and 2025, where he was the special teams coordinator, but also the associate head coach. And that's obviously, I think, important for what we're looking for, because to me, yes, you want to be able to find somebody that has that special teams coordinator ties. And for an organization like the Raiders, and especially for, I'll call them modern day Raiders fans, we really appreciate the special teams coach position because of all the great work that Rich Bisaccia did when he took over for John Gruden. And he helped us, get to the playoffs. That final 4-game stretch, I'll never forget it. The Derek Carr timeout up against the Chargers. We were 6-7. We needed 4 wins, and we found a way to do it, and people rallied around Rich Bisaccia. But so you bring somebody in who's got NCAA college football experience. In today's day and age, I think when you have coaches that can relate to all sorts of players, it's very important. But to me, the biggest reason why they ended up bringing in Joe DeCamillis is because of all of his experience. I mean, guys, this guy has been coaching in the NFL since 1991. It's longer than I've been alive. He got to start with the Denver Broncos as an assistant special teams coach in 1991 and 1992. Then he went to the New York Giants where he was a special teams coach in 93 all the way to 96. So that's literally when I was born. So that's one team where he's been a special teams coach. Then he gets an opportunity to go to Atlanta where he was there for a very long time, 1997 to 2006. The Falcons special teams coach. Then he goes to Jacksonville from 2007 to 2008. Then he goes to the Dallas Cowboys from 2009 to 2012. Then he ends up going to the Bears. Mind you, every position that I've talked about is a special teams coach. Then he goes to the Chicago Bears where he's named assistant head coach and special teams coordinator. When you see somebody that gets this many jobs, some people might be going, all right, well, he's getting hired and fired. A lot of times it's just different regimes. I look at it as there's a lot of regimes that wanted to bring him in, but when you're there for a little bit of extended time, I think that tells you that you're doing a good job, because special teams coaches can get hired and fired very easily, and to me it's probably just a little bit more of turnover from the head coaching standpoint. But the other important part about that is he's been named the assistant head coach multiple times, which shows that I think that he has a good job being able to connect with players, because special teams coaches, you got to be stern, right? You have to be stern because it's very much about the fine details to get it going. But so Chicago Bears 2013, 2014. Then Denver Broncos 2015 to 2016. They won a Super Bowl that year. Do you know who was the head coach of that team? Gary Kubiak. Little Klint Kubiak ties there. Then goes back to Jacksonville as the special teams coordinator in 2017 to 2020. Then he goes to the Rams. Anytime you get hired by Sean McVay, I'm listening. And I think it's important to be able to notice that he goes to the Rams, gets hired by Sean McVay. That team also ends up winning a Super Bowl. So you got a 2-time Super Bowl special teams coach under the names of Gary Kubiak and under the names of Sean McVay. You can start to see why the Raiders decided to go in this direction. Then he was with Texas as a special assistant, to the head coach in 2023 and the past 2 seasons with the South Carolina Gamecocks as an associate head coach and special teams coordinator. So what I want to know from you is this. I want to know down below how you would grade this hire by the Las Vegas Raiders going out and getting Joe DeCamillis. My answer is going to be coming up here after this YouTube ad break. Give me an A, B, C, D, or F. I'm going to give this one an A grade for the Raiders. And at the end of the day, you got to be able to find special teams coaches that have had success in the NFL. And he clearly has had success in the NFL with some really good organizations. And he's got Klint Kubiak ties. And I also want to give this one of a higher grade because I'm not going to lie to y'all. Like, hiring Rob Leonard to be your defensive coordinator, it's a gamble. Like I said yesterday, I think it was a good gamble. I think it's a smart gamble. There's going to be bad gambles. There's going to be good gambles. This is a gamble that I can sit here as a Raiders fan and go, yeah, I can rally behind it. But I also think, when you talk about this entire thing, the other thing that you really got to look at and the other thing that you really got to sit back and wonder is, can you trust Klint Kubiak, first-time head coach? Rob Leonard, first-time defensive coordinator. So you bring in somebody that has won a Super Bowl with Gary, has been a part of the NFL for 35 plus years, 33 plus years because the past 2 years with South Carolina. But you're finding a coach who's been coaching special teams for 35 freaking years. And that to me is relevant because, again, I go back and I look at a lot of those interviews that we did at Super Bowl Media Row and the amount of players that were like, yeah, I believe in the Gary Kubiak system. I believe in the Kubiak system because it's worked so many different times with so many different regimes, with so many different players. And I think when you could bring in a special teams coach that the moment he steps foot in there, you're going to go, he's going to command respect. Unlike Tom McMahon. Like Tom McMahon was let go, hired and fired maybe a little too often. And I think it was one of the reasons why the Raiders had one of the worst special teams units in the NFL because you had a head coach in Pete Carroll who clearly didn't do a very good job, keeping an eye on his staff, dotting the I's, crossing the T's. And then you also had Tom McMahon who also, didn't do a very good job in that regard. So I'm going to give this an A because I look at the entire picture here and it does. It makes a lot of sense to me as a Raiders fan. Now, we're going to continue to break down some of the other things here around this move. I just saw Jeremy said, I just woke up. Give me a second. I'm heading in. So if I had to guess based on that timing with Chugs, I'm going to hope that we're live here on the Raiders Report in about an hour. So stay tuned on that. But today's show, it's sponsored by Panda Sups. And huge shout out to Panda. They've been hooking up the nation for a long time. And, man, it's crazy that they've also been a big part of my journey here and all y'all's journey here on the Raiders Report. But if you don't know, use code Kubiak. You're going to be able to save 26% off at pandasups.com. Yesterday, I talked about the protein. The protein is absolutely positively outstanding. The product I want to talk about today is the BCAAs. If you're somebody that you like to party hard on the Raiders Report and you have a few beers and you kind of get after it from time to time, I do think it's really important for you to take some BCAAs to really hydrate yourself and, again, making sure that you're the best version of yourself. If you're a young athlete out there, if you're a parent and your kid's playing sports, again, always look at the ages. I don't want to tell you to get something that maybe, again, it's very healthy stuff. So, but it's just, you're staying hydrated. Like, if you're going to go out and you get a workout in, it's really important. Like, we take protein, but it's also extremely important to take BCAAs. Like, I'm not saying I'm in great shape, but to me, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape for the amount of shit that we do on this show. And it's because sometimes we expect our coaches to dot our I's and cross our T's. Us as human beings got to do the exact same thing. So make sure you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's with protein, some BCAAs. Those are my 2 favorite products that I use from Panda Sups, and you can get your hands on it at the links that you see down below. It is pandasups.com. Make sure that you use code Kubiak for 26% off. So one more time here, the Las Vegas Raiders, are deciding to go with, and this is a really interesting hire again around Joe DeCamillis because he's won 2 Super Bowls with Sean McVay, with Gary Kubiak, and he was okay in South Carolina. I think one of the hardest parts about being a coach, especially a special teams coach, in today's revolving door with NILs, you got to get guys with a little bit of continuity, but I do think that this is a good hire for the Raiders simply because of the experience that he brings to the table. And what's interesting about this coaching staff for the Raiders that's, slowly coming together, and this is kind of how I expected it to go. I warned my wife, I was like, I think this weekend is going to be a lot of Raiders news, just because, again, when you're the team that's hiring the head coach, the final team to hire a head coach, and you have the number 1 overall pick, man, you got to catch it up. So you hire Klint. He starts doing all of his interviews. You hire Rob Leonard then on February 14th on Valentine's Day. And now what you decide to do is you go get your special teams coach. I think there's a reason why there's a little bit of a hang-up, and I say hang-up around the Seahawks is because they're still evaluating who they want to bring in as their OC. So I think for the Raiders, the reason why we haven't hired an offensive coordinator yet is, one, I don't want to say it's the least important out of them all, but, Klint's the guy calling the X's and O's. So they probably wanted to lock in Rob Leonard, probably wanted to lock in a special teams coach, and then the Raiders' OC hires also probably contingent on what Seattle decides to do, because I think the Raiders are going to try to go and bring in a guy like Andrew Janocko, the quarterback coach in Seattle. Maybe they decide to bring in Jake Peets, the pass game coordinator in Seattle. I think you're going to see a dude like Rick Dennison come on over and potentially be our run game coordinator and offensive line coach. But this is a staff that is quickly coming together, but it's quickly coming together because it kind of needs to, right? Like my flight to next week, I'm going to be flying out to the NFL Combine. That is a week from today. So that means at best case scenario, your head coach, DC special teams coach is going to have a week together, right? Like you got to play catch up here a little bit. So I'm not shocked at all that the Raiders are going out and they're hiring all these different coaches. So that's why I'm getting ready though to go live on the Raiders Report. Hey, subscribe, turn those notifications on. My wife and I have plans tonight. So I really hope that there's nothing that ends up going down tonight, because I'll probably tell you exactly like I told you last night. I'm not going to be going live tonight. If any big-time Raiders news happens, I will get you guys a video like I'm doing right now. And then if I got to go live tomorrow morning on Monday, hey, man, it's just part of the gig. It's part of the business that we're doing here. I guess the other thing I should mention is the Raiders also were able to keep Joe Woods, but I mentioned that last week at Super Bowl Media Row. It just seems like, again, some other of these coaching staffs are becoming finalized with the Las Vegas Raiders. All right, y'all, I'm hopping on out of here. I'll see you guys live in a little bit on the Raiders Report. It's Sunday. I'm feeling good. If you guys are feeling good, get your coffee. Who knows? You can always get a shit show going on the Raiders Report. All right, y'all, make sure you click that subscribe button. I'm telling you, it's always do your best to stay up to date, because I'm always going to do my best to keep y'all up to date. I mean, I literally just woke up, saw the news, decided to throw a video together. I'm about to go down and shotgun a coffee. If you want more videos from me, click this one here, or you click this one here. YouTube recommends them for you.